Tomoe's story begins like a silver thread unraveling in the dark, sharp, cold, and shimmering with ancient loneliness. Long before he became a familiar standing at the side of a land god, long before he learned tenderness, patience, or the delicate vulnerability of love, he was a creature carved from centuries of violence, wandering a world that feared him as much as he feared his own emptiness. He is a fox yokai, whose beauty was rivaled only by his brutality. For centuries he lived like a wandering storm, cold, untamed, and untouched by anything resembling warmth. His heart was a locked shrine, and he himself was both the guardian and the prisoner within it. He was powerful, but wounded, cruel, because cruelty was the only language he ever learned. At first glance, it will come to your attention that Tomoe is beautiful. He embodies the ethereal beauty of a legendary fox spirit, yet carries a dangerous sharpness to him. His long silver-white hair glows like moonlight, beautiful, cold, and timeless, symbolizing both serenity and the emotional distance he carries. His fox-like eyes hold the intensity of centuries, fierce, observant, and touched by a hidden gentleness he rarely allows to surface. His clothing, reminiscent of traditional Heian-era robes blended with shrine attire, flows around him like drifting clouds, giving him an aura both regal and untamed. Even his fox form, with immaculate white fur and an elegant, powerful presence, captures the duality of purity and danger that defies him. Every aspect of his design reflects a creature who is both divine and feral, distant yet heartbreakingly vulnerable. Tomoe's roots lie deeply in Japanese kitsune mythology, a world where fox spirits embody both beauty and danger, mischief and wisdom. Kitsune are known for their dual nature. They can deceive, seduce, and destroy, yet they are also capable of profound loyalty and devotion. Tomoe reflects this paradox vividly. In his early life as a yokai, he is destructive, untamed, and feared. But as a familiar, he becomes fiercely protective and gentle, allowing a softer nature to emerge, one he had long buried. Fox spirits in mythology are also masters of transformation, and Tomoe's entire character arc is metaphorical shapeshifting, from demon to guardian, and from solitary wanderer to loyal partner. His immortality, so often romanticized in folklore, becomes his own curse, painting him with the same melancholy loneliness that haunts long-lived spirits who watch time erode everything they reach for. His name Tomoe carries a symbolic weight that mirrors his character. In Japanese culture, the Tomoe is a swirling koma-shaped pattern seen on ancient emblems, armor, and Shinto iconography. It represents eternal cycles, the balance of opposing forces, and the seamless movements between light and shadow. This symbolism perfectly reflects Tomoe's existence as being caught between two worlds, between wild fox and devoted familiar. The Tomoe emblem is also tied to protection and spiritual power, hinting at the destiny he will fulfill. Guardian, companion, and ultimately the one who stands watch over a beloved god. His name is not merely chosen, it is prophetic, tracing the arc of a soul spiraling from chaos toward harmony. Tomoe's past is a tapestry woven with violence and yearning, a life forged in the age of gods and beasts when the world was still raw, untamed, and echoing with cries of the yokai. Long before he became a shrine familiar, long before he learned how to speak the language of tenderness, Tomoe was a creature of instinct, sharp, wild, and free. Tomoe was not born into warmth, gentleness, or safety. He was born into a world where only strength mattered. Violence became the only stability he knew. He learned early that love was a rare luxury for creatures like him. Even among yokai, Tomoe was an outsider, too intelligent to be a mere beast, too wild to be a civilized spirit. He moved through the world alone, unclaimed, unnamed, unfettered by anything but hunger and instinct. His beauty made him feared. His power made him hunted. There were whispers of his existence, the silver demon fox who haunted battlefields, the spirit who stole wandering souls, the creature whose laughter sounded like bells at a funeral. Loneliness for him was not an emotion, it was a landscape. He served no master, he fought for no cause. He merely lived in chaos, thriving in the world humans tried and failed to control. He burned villages and took lives without hesitation, because the world had taught him one lesson too many times. If the world is cruel to you, be crueler. He was a demon fox in every sense, dangerous, untamed, and feared by all. And yet, beneath the ferocity, there was a hollow place inside him, a quiet ache he never acknowledged, a longing he didn't know how to name. For centuries, Tomoe wandered the world in this state, powerful, angry, and painfully alone. His heart became an abandoned shrine, echoing with the memories of battles and losses he never allowed himself to feel. He had no future. Yokai lived long, but they do not truly live. He had no past worth remembering, only scars. He had no name that meant anything to him, only the title others whispered in fear. Then one day, Tomoe finds Mikage, the original land god. This period in Tomoe's existence is often quiet and understated in the narrative, yet it represents one of the most transformative chapters of his long life. It is the bridge between the feral fox demon he once was and the compassionate protective familiar he eventually becomes. Tomoe did not choose servitude under Mikage out of loyalty or love. He was found, lost in the aftermath of centuries spent as a drifting weapon, an aimless creature bound to violence and loneliness. By the time Mikage approached him, Tomoe was broken in ways he refused to acknowledge, wounded by grief, hollowed by betrayal, and exhausted from a life with no meaning beyond survival. Mikage saw all of this, not only what Tomoe was, but what he could become. And instead of fear, disgust, or revenge, Mikage approached him with something Tomoe had long forgotten existed: kindness. Slowly, this gentle god became the first safe presence in Tomoe's life, the first being who did not want to use him or fear him. Under Mikage, Tomoe learned the unfamiliar rhythm of peace and stillness, tending to the shrine, watching the seasons shift, and existing without consistent battle. Mikage understood something that Tomoe did not yet realize, that stillness heals. Though Tomoe did not show it openly, Mikage became a figure he respected deeply. Even when he left the shrine, Tomoe waited 20 years patiently for his return. Mikage was the first person to ever believe in him, and that belief planted the first seed of the transformation Nanami would later complete. Yet there was also a barrier Tomoe refused to break. He kept his heart closed. He served loyally, but he did not allow himself to feel deeply. Love to him was a cruelty he had already endured once in his past. So even with Mikage, he remained emotionally distant, protecting the one thing he feared the most: vulnerability. Tomoe's hatred of humans was never born from cruelty. It was born from betrayal, from the slow erosion of trust that comes when a heart is repeatedly wounded in the same place. Much of this hatred, though, was tied not to humanity as a whole, but to one girl, Yukiji. He fell deeply in love with her, and in loving her, he broke one of the most unspoken rules of the yokai existence, that humans and yokai can never fall in love. Despite warnings, taboos, and the gulf between their natures, Tomoe made a desperate, forbidden pact with a fallen god. He asked to become human, to cast off immortality and demonic heritage. Everything, just to live out a mortal life with Yukiji. Love after centuries of numbness felt worth sacrifice, but something went wrong, as he did not become human but was dying all the same when Mikage found him wandering in the woods. Thanks to Mikage sealing his memories, Tomoe remembered nothing of this era of his life. Tomoe's hatred towards humans was simply the echo of a broken heart that never stopped grieving. It was the roar of a fox who once loved a human girl and lost her. When fate brought Nanami to the shrine, Tomoe's dormant world, structured around duty, solitude, and mute loyalty, was suddenly disrupted. Their meeting was not an accident. It was destiny gently nudging two souls toward the healing they desperately need. Yet their beginning is messy, very messy. Tomoe initially wants nothing to do with her. Nanami was a mortal girl, fragile, clumsy, and naive, and he despised that. The notion that such a girl could be a land god deserving of his service seemed absurd. To him, she is a burden Mikage has irresponsibly left on his doorstep. She represents uncertainty and responsibility he never asked for, and the threat to the quiet life he built in the god's absence. Tomoe's initial behavior is understandably valid because of his fear of vulnerability and past pain. He has been hurt deeply, loved, and lost, and as a result, he built walls to protect himself. This is a common human experience. Many people struggle with trusting others after past heartbreak, rejection, or trauma. Tomoe's initial coldness, cynicism, and distrust mirror the defense mechanisms humans often create to shield themselves from emotional pain. Anger, sarcasm, cold disdain. These were his first responses, hoping it will drive her away. And yet, it does not. Instead, Nanami persisted. She fights, she cries, gets angry, stumbles, then tries again. And for the first time in centuries, someone pushes against the walls Tomoe has built around his heart. They sealed their contract with a kiss, and from that moment forward, Tomoe becomes her familiar, her protector, her teacher, her reluctant companion, and slowly, so very slowly, her home. Nanami and Tomoe's time together is defined by transformation caused by the collision of worlds. Tomoe is ancient, structured, and controlled. Nanami is modern, messy, and impulsive. She insists on fairness. He insists on rules. She acts with her heart. He acts with logic. She believes in people. He mistrusts everything. Yet through these clashes, something begins to shift in Tomoe. For the first time, he sees a human not as a fleeting creature doomed to despair, but as someone with extraordinary resilience and warmth. He watches Nanami challenge gods, demons, spirits, and fate itself, not for glory, but out of compassion. And in her, he sees a light he has never encountered before. Tomoe protects Nanami fiercely, sometimes too fiercely. He shields her from storms, monsters, even emotions he believes are too overwhelming for her. But beneath his strength lies fear. Fear of losing her, fear of caring too deeply, and fear of feeling again after centuries of emotional numbness. Nanami, on the other hand, protects Tomoe in ways no spell ever could. She softens him. She awakens something Tomoe buried centuries ago, his humanity. Around her, he feels emotions he never allowed himself to feel: gentleness, jealousy, protectiveness, and the fear of losing someone. Nanami challenges him simply by being herself. She teaches him compassion through action, patience through forgiveness, and humility through mistakes. He becomes less of a weapon and more of a person. She teaches him patience and vulnerability. She brings laughter back into his life. She makes him feel alive. When Tomoe's memories of the past begin to surface, of Yukiji, of pain, of the curse, he falls into confusion, guilt, and self-loathing. He tries to push Nanami away, believing he doesn't deserve her. But Nanami does not simply abandon their love. She travels to the past and saves Tomoe's injured past self from the villagers. She fights for him. She chooses him and forgives him. And in that moment, Tomoe realizes something profound. The love he thought he had lost centuries ago, the love that haunted him, was always her. This twist becomes one of the most complicated parts of Tomoe's relationships. The woman he believed to be his love for centuries, Yukiji, was not in fact the real Yukiji, but Nanami from the future disguised as her. This confusion stemmed from events in the past, when Nanami traveled back in time and assumed Yukiji's identity to save Tomoe. Because of this, Tomoe's love, which he thought was for a woman long dead, was actually directed, perhaps unconsciously, towards Nanami. Over centuries he grieved, blamed himself, and buried that love under guilt, pain, and memory loss thanks to Mikage's sealing magic. In the present, that confusion gets unraveled. Memories resurface, truth emerges, and with it, the clarity of his feelings for Nanami. What was once grief becomes redemption. What was once lost becomes a reunion. What was once a forgotten love becomes a promise fulfilled across centuries. Nanami becomes the closure for his past, the peace for his present, and the promise for his future. By the end of the story, Tomoe's ultimate transformation comes with the final choice he makes. He chooses to give up on immortality and become human to marry Nanami. Tomoe's decision to become human is the most profound act of love in his entire story, not because it is romantic, but because it is irreversible. For a yokai who has lived for centuries, immortality is not merely a trait. It is identity, power, and certainty. To abandon it is to accept fragility, aging, and death. In choosing humanity, Tomoe chooses limitation. And in doing so, he redefines what strength truly means. Psychologically, this choice represents Tomoe's final release of fear. For centuries, he avoided emotional attachment because loss was inevitable. Humans die, time erases everything. By becoming human, Tomoe does not escape this truth. He steps directly into it. He accepts that love will now exist within a finite lifespan, that happiness will be temporary, and that pain will once again be possible. Yet he chooses his path willingly, demonstrating that love is no longer something to be feared, but something worth risking everything for. Symbolically, Tomoe's transformation is a rejection of isolation and superiority. As a yokai, he existed above humans, both in power and longevity, always separated by an invisible boundary. Becoming human dissolves that divide. He no longer watches Nanami grow old while remaining unchanged. He walks beside her, equal in vulnerability and time. This choice affirms his desire not to protect from afar, but to live fully within the same world she inhabits, sharing the same joys and sorrows. Emotionally, this moment marks the completion of Tomoe's character arc. The fox yokai who once despised humans, who mocked weakness and dependency, now chooses the most human act of all: commitment. Marriage in this context is not just a bond of love, but a declaration of presence. Tomoe is no longer running from his past, hiding behind power or guarding his heart. He chooses to stay. Ultimately, Tomoe's decision to become human is a quiet but radical statement. Eternity without love is emptier than a fleeting life filled with meaning. By surrendering immortality, he proves that fulfillment is not found in endless existence, but in shared moments of mutual growth and the courage to love without guarantees. His humanity is not a loss. It is a culmination of everything he has learned and the truest expression of who he has become. Tomoe's story is not one of power, immortality, or destiny. It is the story of a heart that learned how to open. He begins as a creature shaped by loss, distrust, and centuries of solitude, believing that detachment is the only way to survive. Yet through Nanami, he discovers that survival is not the same as living, and that a guarded heart, no matter how strong, is still a lonely one. What makes Tomoe extraordinary is not that he changes, but how he changes. He does not erase his past or deny the pain that shaped him. He carries it with him, transformed. His sharpness softens into devotion, his pride into humility, and his fear into courage. Each step forward is quiet, hard-earned, and deeply human, proving that growth is not a sudden transformation, but a series of choices made in love. In choosing to become human, Tomoe completes his journey, not by abandoning who he was, but by finally becoming who he was meant to be. He trades eternity for presence, power for equality, and distance for intimacy. His love is no longer bound by contracts or immortality, but by shared time, shared vulnerability, and shared life. Tomoe reminds us that healing does not come from avoiding pain, but from allowing ourselves to feel deeply despite it. His story is a testament to the idea that even the most wounded hearts can learn to trust again, and that love, when chosen freely, has the power to rewrite fate itself. And so, the fox who once wandered alone finds his home, not in immortality, not in power, but in love.